Right now, there is a loud consensus in the tech industry that artificial intelligence development has hit a wall. They can all summarize documents, draft polite emails, and write basic SQL queries. You look at the public leaderboards, and every major model is hitting the 90th percentile on standardized tests. But those scores tell a flawed story. Real businesses operate in chaos. They generate corrupted source files, they issue contradictory instructions, and they run on messy, duct-taped operations. Evaluating a supercomputer on its ability to pass a clean, artificial exam ignores the reality of how work actually gets done. With GPT-5.5, OpenAI is testing a different theory. They aren't trying to squeeze another 2 points out of a multiple-choice exam. They are testing how much of a messy, multi-step project a model can carry before it loses the thread. The focus has shifted toward the floor of the model, what it can reasonably figure out on its own without a human holding its hand through every step. To see if that floor has actually moved, we are treating the top AI models like candidates for the worst internship imaginable. We are putting GPT 5.5, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7, and Google's Gemini 3.1 Pro through a grueling, absurd probationary trial. We are handing them underspecified briefs, contradictory materials, and massive file piles to see who can actually complete the work. We have spent years watching models get really good at sounding smart in a chat box. The true test of modern intelligence isn't sentence structure. It's the ability to maintain composure when dropped into unstructured corporate chaos. Trial number 1 is the Dingo Dilemma. The models act as an executive launching Dingo Box Pro, a fictional, operationally complex startup selling automated litter boxes for wild dingoes and exotic hybrids. The premise is intentionally absurd, testing whether the model treats this like a standard novelty product or correctly identifies it as a legally sensitive and ethically fraught operation. The competitors immediately struggled with the multi-format requirements. Gemini 3.1 Pro attempted to build the required slide decks and PDFs, but produced text files wearing the wrong file extensions. Claude Opus 4.7 generated polished presentation slides, but completely ignored the massive legal and regulatory liabilities involved in importing wild predators. GPT 5.5 separated itself by grasping the specific risks of the assignment. It actively walled off the exotic animal import liabilities from the product company and warned that the litter box didn't make exotic ownership legal or simple. It was the only model to generate 23 actual usable business files, including spreadsheets with real formulas and a slide deck with functional media files. Trial 2 is Splash Brothers, representing the high-stakes monotony of small business data migrations. We dropped the models into a filthy 465-file folder for a mobile car wash business. It is loaded with corrupted JSON backups, inconsistent payment records, handwritten receipts, and intentionally planted fake customers to see if the AI would catch the noise. GPT 5.5 caught the intuitive errors that tripped up older models. While previous systems merged fake people like Mickey Mouse and test customer into the database, GPT 5.5 rejected them. It successfully merged 7 pairs of duplicate customers and identified 13 orders with name typos that would have otherwise skewed the revenue data. However, it struggled with the boring, repetitive back-end hygiene. Its final schema completely missed a column for service codes, making it impossible to resolve service conflicts. It also failed to normalize payment statuses, leaving dozens of different labels and capitalizations in the final database. GPT 5.5 can perform the heavy lifting of a messy migration, but the results confirm that no model should be trusted as a final authority. It can compress the middle of the work, but it requires a human to verify the columns and counts before the data moves to production. This image shows the massive scale and structural complexity of the Artemis SLS rocket. For the third trial, the candidates had to build an interactive, educational 3D rendering of NASA's Artemis II moon flyby mission from scratch. We provided 0 facts and specified no tech stack. They had to research the mission, build the vehicle, and animate the launch entirely on their own. The visual authority in this photograph represents the standard Claude Opus 4.7 was able to reach. Opus built a gorgeously lit, visually grounded masterpiece with sophisticated composition. GPT 5.5, by contrast, prioritized information density, filling the screen with clickable bubbles and facts. But the 3D assets looked cartoonish, and the proportions felt off. While it lacked visual taste, GPT 5.5's ability to endure massive file counts and multi-step logic wasn't magic. It succeeded because it wasn't confined to a standard chat window. GPT 5.5 was operating inside Codex. Codex is an active environment where the model has the agency to inspect local files, run code, read documentation, and drive a browser. It isn't just responding to text. It is working inside the folder where the task lives. When GPT 5.5 hits a broken layout or a code error inside Codex, it doesn't wait for a new prompt. It independently revises its plan, patches the file, and runs the test again. It iterates on its own output until the research is verified and the artifact is rendered. The chat window acts as a bottleneck for reasoning. By giving the model the tools to act on its own thoughts, OpenAI has created a self-correcting loop where intelligence and agency multiply each other. Sticking to a single model for every task has become a liability. The frontier is now too specialized for a one-size-fits-all approach to be effective. The most productive users are shifting towards a routing mindset, assigning the right model to the right specific problem. We can now build a definitive routing cheat sheet. If the job requires blank canvas visual design and critique, Claude Opus remains the strongest choice. But for heavy, multi-step back-end execution that involves digging through files and structuring data, GPT 5.5 inside Codex is the superior default. This combination allows solopreneurs to build tools that weren't possible a week ago. There is, however, a hard boundary to this independence. Human validation is strictly required before any model's output touches final production data, financial operations, or legal compliance. As the Splash Brothers trial showed, models can still be confidently wrong about the boring details that make a business durable. Stop treating AI like a search engine that answers questions. Start treating it like a team of specialized employees where you are the final manager. GPT 5.5 isn't here to replace your judgment. It's here to see how much of the heavy lifting you're willing to do.